Mortal Kombat is one of the biggest rosters in fighting game history. Over 30 years we've gotten hundreds of characters and some became legends, like Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, Shang Tsung, you know them. But for every character that became an icon, there are others who had everything they needed to become just as memorable, but they just never got the chance. Maybe they just disappeared for 20 something years, maybe the story just never really focused on them, or maybe NRS or Midway introduced an amazing concept and then moved on before it could truly develop. And that happened a lot with the 3D era, and to be honest, those are some of the most frustrating characters in Mortal Kombat because sometimes a character doesn't fail because they're just straight up bad. It's just they failed because they never got enough attention. We never got enough of them in certain games. Like they just appeared in one game and they just never appeared again. So today I just want to talk about the Mortal Kombat characters that deserved way more time, stories, and opportunities. But before we get into that, if you guys don't know me by now, I'm Mr. Frosty Flames, but you can call me Mike. We do anything gaming, news, reviews, playthroughs, etc. And we do it in a chill way with no over editing BS. So if you enjoy that style of content, be sure to hit that sub button and join the Mr. Frosty Flames Legion. Anyways, let's get back to the video. So let's start with one of the biggest examples, and I think that's Sareena. Because honestly, Sareena might be one of the most biggest missed opportunities in Mortal Kombat history. I mean, she had everything. She had a unique design, a tragic backstory, and a connection to one of the major villains, which is Quan Chi, a connection to the Brotherhood of Shadow too, and everyone just thought she looked cool, but she was only in really 2 games, Mortal Kombat Mythologies and Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Yeah, I guess, she's in Mortal Kombat 1 as a cameo, which is really disappointing because she's such a beloved character, and why is she being pushed back to just a cameo role? And she has one of the most interesting redemption stories in the franchise. Sareena just wasn't another demon from the Netherrealm. She was someone who spent her life serving evil before realizing she wanted something more. That is something genuinely interesting about her character arc. The problem is, I said it, Mortal Kombat really just never fully committed to her. She appears, fans really get excited, man, they really love her, and then she just disappears again. And that's very frustrating because Sareena could easily be one of the franchise's most important female characters and the most beloved too, but they just never give her the light to shine, and that's very disappointing. I mean, they give Astra the light to shine. She's something of a similar nature, a demon from the Netherrealm who's trying to do good. So why not just, take a turn for the better and maybe have Astra and Sareena or something like that? Or maybe Sareena and her other sister. I know she has another sister. Is it Kia or something? I forgot the name. Let me know in the comments down below if you remember. I think it's Kia. But anyways, speaking of the 3D era, we're gonna talk about another character from that era that has so much potential, and that's Hotaru. Because I always said that the idea of an order realm is one of the coolest concepts in Mortal Kombat. A world obsessed with rules, structure, and control, and Hotaru was the perfect representation of that. The best part about Hotaru was he wasn't just like necessarily evil, and he genuinely believed that he was doing the right thing. And those are always the most interesting characters, because someone who thinks that they're the hero, but their beliefs become extreme. His rivalry with Havoc was one of the most interesting ideas from the 3D era, the order versus chaos. They have 2 completely different philosophies, but unfortunately, we never got enough time with Hotaru. That's why when I seen that Havoc was going to be in Mortal Kombat 1, I was like, man, definitely Hotaru is going to be in it, because how could they have Havoc without Hotaru? Because they're literally arch nemesises. They're like yin and yang. They're opposites of each other. But the thing is, I was even more surprised because they were going to have a whole DLC inspired by Havoc, Chaos Reigns, and still no Hotaru. I mean, if you're gonna go into the Chaos Realm and just cause chaos in Havoc's timeline, who's the best person to call? Hotaru. That's really a no-brainer. You could bring him back in that DLC and introduce him in Liu Kang's timeline, helping out the good guys. I mean, maybe like they don't completely agree with his beliefs, but he could be like a temporary ally or something to Liu Kang, because he knows how to deal with Havoc the best, because he is literally the opposite of Havoc. So that's why I think Hotaru definitely needs to be in the next game if Havoc's gonna be in it, or maybe just have Hotaru even if Havoc is not gonna be in it, because he deserves it and he just looks cool too. And for my next character, it's also gonna follow the theme of 3D era games. The only difference is that this character was actually in all of the 3D era games, and this character was also in Mortal Kombat 1, and that's Li Mei. Li Mei is actually one of the rare examples where Mortal Kombat finally gave a character the attention they deserved, but it just took decades. Originally she was introduced in Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, and she was like a student of Bo Rai Cho. I think she always had potential. Her costume looked amazing, if you know what I mean. She was a warrior from Outworld. She had a tragic history. She wanted to protect her people, but for years she was mostly forgotten. You know, she was in Mortal Kombat Deception, but she was just relegated to like background character status, and then even in Armageddon the same thing, and a little bit of a cameo in MKX. But then MK1 came along and completely reinvented her as like an Umgadi princess defender type person, right? But Lee Mei was never just like a boring character. I feel like she just needed proper development, and her return showed what could actually happen if Mortal Kombat invested in its forgotten characters. I feel like she was one that was relegated to just background character status the whole time, and that was really unacceptable for me because I really love Lee Mei as a character. And even in MK1, I mean, she has her own chapter in MK1 too, so she at least, you know, has some character arc and some character development, but I feel like it just wasn't enough. I want to see like a real powerful, real like cool Lee Mei, maybe something akin to like how she was in like Deception or something. But man, you know, I really just was about her presentation in MK1. I feel like she just deserves a little better. And following the theme of the 3D era characters, this one might be controversial because the next character I chose is actually Kira, because a lot of people remember her as one of the weaker 3D era characters. I remember as a kid watching a bunch of like worst Mortal Kombat character lists or top 10 worst Mortal Kombat characters, and Kira was always, you know, on that list somewhere. But I always think she had a lot of potential. I think the idea of a female Black Dragon member was interesting to me, especially because the Black Dragon has always been one of the coolest Mortal Kombat groups ever. You get characters like Kano, Cabal, even Cobra, other people, Tremor. Having someone new represent that criminal world could have been great. The problem is she was introduced and then basically forgotten. We never got to see her or, you know, Cobra become their own characters. She was always being stuck being compared to Kano and other fighters, and I guess, you know, that's valid because she had the moveset of Kano, so she was basically like female Kano, and that's completely valid. However, I think with a proper reinvention, she could be greatness. And I love how they brought her back as Ghostface, you know, with a little cameo. She has the moveset. I know you could switch Ghostface's stances to either have Cobra's moveset or Kira's moveset, and I absolutely love them because they're usually paired up as a duo, like a Black Dragon duo, and that's cool. So if Kira comes back, I definitely want to see Cobra get reinvented too, just throwing that out there. And the next character I chose, we're going to break the 3D era curse, you know, and we're going to go to Kintaro. I think Kintaro might be one of the biggest examples of wasted potential in Mortal Kombat history, because look at the character. He's a four-armed, tiger-like Shokan. He looks cool. He's supposed to be the successor to Goro, and that sounds incredible on paper, but compared to Goro, Kintaro never reached that same legendary status. You know, Goro is one of the most iconic fighting game characters ever. You could show Goro to somebody that doesn't even know Mortal Kombat, and they could probably, you know, point out who he is. They know who Goro is. Oh, he's that guy from Mortal Kombat with four arms. You know, everybody knows him, or at least they know what he looks like. They've seen him before. But Kintaro should have been his own terrifying monster, the same as Goro. Instead, he just feels like a forgotten Shokan, and we've seen characters like Shiva more than him, and I think Kintaro really just one-ups Shiva in every way possible. I love Kintaro more, and that's a shame because the idea of developing Kintaro as a major Outworld warrior could have been amazing, but unfortunately we just don't see him. I don't think we've seen him since, you know, MK9 as an actual character. I know he was a cameo in MK11 Shang Tsung's Fatality. I think like he put the soul of Kintaro in him and blah blah blah, he just pops out, right? But you know, I feel like he deserves more. He deserves that presence the same as Goro. He just never gotten it. And the next character I chose is actually a real classic character, and that's Nightwolf. And this is going to surprise a lot of people. I feel like Nightwolf is another character who deserves more recognition because his concept is actually one of the most unique in Mortal Kombat history, and I feel like he's one of the most respected characters in Mortal Kombat history. He's not just a fighter, you know, he's a spiritual warrior, a protector, someone connected to ancient powers and traditions. MK11 actually showed how interesting Nightwolf could be. His story with the Great Spirit and his role protecting the people of his tribe is so much more depth. It gives depth to his character, but outside of that, he's really just been pushed aside, and I think that's unfortunate because Nightwolf brings something completely different to the roster. For a character in his status and a character that has his role, I feel like he should be like in every other game, something similar to maybe like Raiden, Liu Kang, or something like that. If he's not gonna be in every single single game. Like, he doesn't have to be, but at least put him in like every other game. But it seems like he just misses the main roster spot in every single game. He hasn't been on the main roster since MK9. You know, he was in MK11, but he was DLC. I want to see him actually hit the main roster spot in a Mortal Kombat game, like actually have him in a reveal trailer or something. I think he's actually going to be in MK3 on the main roster, but that's just my prediction, and he should be, and he should have a major role in that game, I think. But anyways, the thing about Mortal Kombat is there are so many characters with amazing ideas, but sometimes having potential isn't enough. A character needs time, they need a story, a character needs moments that make fans remember them, and unfortunately, a lot of these characters never got that opportunity, because we've seen Mortal Kombat bring characters back and completely reinvent them. Take a look at characters like Li Mei in MK1, Baraka in MK1, even Astra. So maybe one day, these characters could finally get the spotlight that they deserve. Now I want to know, which character do you think we didn't get enough of? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to join the Mr. Frosty Flames Legion. Thank you guys for watching. Mr. Frosty Flames out. Yeah!